Wrist strength complex, stick. A lot of adult gymnastics skill seekers start their gymnastics training journey with weak and tight wrists. It's essential to strengthen the wrists before you start balancing your entire body weight on your wrists in movements like handstands and planche. This is where specific wrist training can be helpful. We want to build strength in the forearm muscles to handle the volume, frequency, and intensity of gymnastic strength training. It might look simple, but it's essential, especially if you're new to gymnastic strength training. And by new, I mean you've been doing it for less than 2 years. We're going to use a stick to load the movements in this wrist strength complex. The stick's width and length will dictate the intensity. The thicker and longer the stick, the more challenging the movement. When using a long stick, you'll need to stand on an elevated surface to work through a full range of motion on the ulnar and radial flexion. Let's begin with ulnar flexion, also known as ulnar deviation. The ulnar is one of the 2 bones in the forearm. In ulnar flexion, we're bending the wrist towards the ulnar. Grip the end of the stick in one hand, with the stick protruding from the thumb and index finger side. The hand not holding the stick is placed across the bottom rib with the fingers straight. The elbow of the working arm rests on the fingers of the non-working hand. From here, tilt the wrist down to point the stick towards the ground. Then, tilt the wrist up to lift the stick. This is ulnar flexion. Keeping the elbow locked, move the stick up and down for the prescribed number of reps before repeating on the opposite wrist. Next is radial flexion, also known as radial deviation. Grip the stick in one hand with the stick protruding from the pinky finger side of the hand. The hand not holding the stick is placed across the bottom rib with the fingers straight. The elbow of the working arm rests on the fingers of the non-working hand. From here, tilt the wrist down to lift the stick up. This is radial flexion. Then tilt the wrist up to move the stick down. Keeping the elbow locked, move the stick up and down for the prescribed number of repetitions before repeating on the opposite wrist. Last but not least are pronation and supination. Grip one end of the stick in one hand, the stick protruding from the thumb and index finger side. The hand not holding the stick is placed across the bottom rib with the fingers straight. The elbow of the working arm is bent at 90 degrees and rests on the fingers of the non-working hand. The forearm of the working arm stays parallel to the floor for the entire set. Start with the palm facing down and the stick across the front of the body. From here, supinate the wrist to rotate the stick clockwise as far as possible. Keep the elbow bent at 90 degrees and pressed against the fingers of the non-working hand as you supinate the wrist. Then reverse the movement to rotate the stick counterclockwise and pronate the wrists. Again, keep the elbow bent at 90 degrees and pressed against the fingers of the non-working hand. Repeat the prescribed number of reps, then switch to the opposite wrist. One set of 10 to 20 reps multiple times per week is enough volume and frequency to help condition the wrists and decrease the chance of wrist injury. Give it a try and see how you go. If you've got questions, please leave them in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.